Good evening, ladies and I don't even got my mic out. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. Tonight we're on episode 310, and we're going to be talking a little bit about, we're on 311, and we're going to be talking a little bit about mental health. Apologize to everybody out there in the cyberverse. We are running a little late here tonight. This is one of those nights where my wife and myself kind of met on a little journey of her teaching me podcasting, one ending exactly at 9 and one starting exactly at 9 and having to do the setup in between. So here we are. No harm, no foul. I think it's all good.
Hey,
it's all in the one.
You know,
sorry, go ahead.
We never promised anything.
No! Well, for one, we don't get paid. We all know that, so, But, all joking aside, serious kind of topic here tonight. We're talking about mental health, and there's a lot of stages of mental health, too. So I think it's a really good topic. This is one that Ben had brought up, and I thought it was a wonderful idea, in all honesty, and we were almost going to talk about it last week, but we moved it to this week. That way you lucky folks could get another week episode last week. So, mental health. What does it mean to you, Ben? Where it is your topic, I always like you to take credit for what you got. Lead us into this.
Well, it means a lot of stuff, but I mean, for this time, it kind of comes back to, just the situations that we end up in, and not always at our fault or our reason, but there are times when we need to take care of ourselves a little better than other times. And there's a lot involved in good mental health. I don't think anyone here claims to be an absolute expert at it. I don't think we are perfect, and I think we struggle with the same struggles that everyone else does. And so we aren't going to come here and say, do this and you're going to be perfectly fine. Absolutely not. We're not going to lie to you. But I think it's something that needs to be brought up. I see things where people talk about men's health, women's health, especially on the mental side. And I don't think we want to push either more than the other. We will admit that we're both men, but by everyone's standard, I think. And that's not to be anything odd. It's just that we don't pretend to be anything else. We don't care. But we're also, I think both of us could be very well considered feminists. We are very much about equal rights. We support women. And so we want to put that out there too. But how do we maintain mental health? And there's a lot of steps to that. You mentioned that there's a lot to it. And some of it is, I think, finding things that make you feel good. For us, the podcast is part of our mental health. I think that's very much true.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with this. This is, for me, this is an event I look forward to weekly. This is how I unwind, funny enough.
Yeah. So we both look forward to this. This is something we think about throughout the week. We occasionally reach out to each other, but on a weekly basis, this is a point where we can touch base with like-minded individuals ourselves, plus all our listeners. We can hear what they have to say. We feed back ideas, and it kind of makes us feel like we're part of a community. It makes us feel like we are doing something productive. And these are very important things. People need to feel valued and like they belong. And if you don't have those feelings, if you don't feel valued, you don't feel like you belong somewhere, it is a deep, dark thing. And it doesn't mean that you aren't valued or you don't belong. It's how you feel in that moment. And you can feel that way for many reasons. So I think that's an important thing. Finding that place where you can be you is definitely one of those parts. Now, I'm going to let you talk for a few minutes.
No, I was just going to add something in there. And I was going to say, you're absolutely right. Finding something that makes you feel worth it. You know what I mean? And worth it can be a vast variety of things. As Ben said, a place where you belong, somewhere you can be happy, somewhere where you can be who you are and accepted for what that is. And as Ben said, the podcast does that for us. We do have the enjoyment of talking to you fine folks out there and getting the feedback like Ben said. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's Ben and I shooting the crap. You know what I mean? We're just talking. We love to get the input in here. We try to have a theme to it that educates people a little bit. Although, as I said, we are not experts. But yeah, it's 100%. And I would almost back that up a tiny bit more and go, it's something to be aware when your mental health isn't where it should be, or to acknowledge when maybe you just need a little pick me up. Does that make any kind of sense, Ben?
Oh, for sure. Um, you know, throughout life, we are going to have things that go really well for us. You know, you have times when you get that new car, you buy that house, you meet someone you really like and you feel you're excited about it. But you're also going to have times when friendships fail, you lose a job, you know, you can't, struggling to pay bills, or you just feel lost, like you don't belong anywhere, or you've lost somebody. All these things happen to us. You know, we have ups and we have downs. And if you are in a poor mental health situation, those downs feel much, much greater, and the ups kind of can get missed. Um, and the reason for that, we won't get too much in it. People will say there's many a reason. You know, it could be hormonal imbalances, things like that. It could be completely mental. We don't have the answers for that, but we do know that it is important to be able to acknowledge our wins and understand our losses in a way that is healthy.
No, completely. And a saying that gets thrown around a lot, and I figured we'd talk about it and break it down a tiny bit, is this too shall pass, which it is a very good thing to know and be aware of, and I try to live my life to that. But as Ben said, if you don't have anyone to confide in for that, it feels very, very lonely waiting for it to pass. And that's where you can really get into some real dark places. And like Ben said, we're not experts. We're not going to go down that. But this is just talking from, our experiences, from us, our families, ourselves, people we know, things like that. It's real easy to fall. It's harder to get back up, but it's easier with help.
True, true. Right. It's also really easier to knock someone down than build them up. So when somebody is hurting, somebody is lost, somebody is struggling, uh, the effort and energy it takes to help them out of that spot is going to take a hell of a lot more than it would be to knock them down. Somebody who's already in a precarious position and you go in and you say some negative things, you can detrimentally harm them. You can bring them mentally down to the point where it's much harder to bring them back. If they're very healthy, they can rebound from one or two things, but you don't know what you're adding to. So, you know, when you say something to somebody, understand you don't know their situation. You don't know what they're dealing with, and you might be, it was a joke, or I was angry, I didn't really mean it, but that doesn't mean that's not going to harm them. And I don't know if either of us have experienced that recently. That's not what I'm indicating. I'm just saying that do know when you're going through life, the mental health of other people is important. So if you care about people, it doesn't hurt to let them know that you care about them, that they're important, that you enjoy them, having them around. Um, on the flip side, if there's somebody who truly is dragging you down, I'm a firm believer of this. It is okay to cut some people out of your life. Um, there are people that I've walked away from. There's, they brought nothing except pain and disappointment. So do understand who is truly helping you and who is truly bringing you down, and deal with that. Also understand that not everyone who says something negative to you is your enemy. Sometimes
Very
your
true.
best friend is the one who's going to tell you the things you need to hear, and it's not always easy. So just
And that
cutting
is a
people
very
off.
hard distinction or distinguishing. Distinguish? What's the word I'm looking for here, Ben? I can't think of it. The dyslexic
Uh,
kicking in. Distinction?
well, distinction is not a wrong way to put it.
Anyway, it's a hard time to tell the difference sometimes.
Differentiate. It's hard
Differentiate.
to
Thank you. That's the
differentiate.
word I was actually looking for. It's tricky sometimes because generally when we're feeling down or our emotions are heightened in any way, we tend to have knee-jerk reactions, and sometimes this can fuel our own mental health in a negative way as well as affect other people's mental health in a negative way. So it's real easy to say, hard to preach, but still gonna say it. It is much better to take a breath and think about what you say, because as Ben said, it's real hard to get that genie back in the bottle. Once it's out, there's no way to really talk it away. Yes, you might have been upset. Yes, you might not have meant it in the heat of the moment, but the words or actions or whatever was still done. It's still there. It's still a memory to somebody. And regardless of what you say about it, it's always going to be there like a splinter. I can remember things, and we're talking about our personal life now, and I don't care about this.
Yeah.
I'm very open about this stuff, and I think everybody in my family would be too. Me and my dad, we get along great now. When I was a teenager, I was a shithead teenager. I'm not gonna lie. Excuse the language, but that's what it was. I thought I was 20 feet tall, bulletproof, and I knew the ways of the world. Probably when I really didn't. In any case, we used to argue quite a bit because as I was coming up older, going through all the hormonal changes and stuff, Dad wasn't overly old himself. He might have been in, and I'm trying to do the math in my head. He might have been like at best early 40s, like I am now, and we bonded heads a lot. And I know because I can still remember some stuff that we both said things to each other that we still have not forgotten to this day. And that's like 20 plus years later. And I mean, yes, we knew it was in the heat of the moment. Yeah, it wasn't a really big thing at the end of it, but it's always still there. There's always a little nugget of it tucked in the back of your spine like a thorn that digs in, and it never really goes away. And that's why I'm trying to emphasize, like I said, you can't put that genie back in the bottle. You can't unsay those words. You can't unsay the way you said it. So really, folks, try to take a breath, figure it out, and say what you mean, but not in the wrong way.
And for me, one of the and it's interesting. One of the probably the biggest boosts to my mental health actually came from a very strange encounter. In the fact that it was a supervisor that I worked with that I didn't have an overly amount of respect for. Not that I disrespected him, I just didn't feel like he was a good supervisor. And I was struggling with some of the things that they were doing. And I went to see him one time and I complained about the situation. And it was probably one of the first times I got true constructive criticism. And I am a very big believer in constructive criticism. If somebody gives you criticism, like if somebody tells you you're stupid, there's nothing you can do with that. That is just an insult. If someone says that you are and explains what you are and how you could change to not be that. So they could say you're very intimidating and people don't know how to deal with you. Okay, understood. I'm not showing up friendly. And this is why maybe I'm not getting this result. Now you know what to work for. That is a gift. And I've said this before to people. Somebody who gives you good constructive criticism, that is a gift. That is something that you can work with. And it is up to you. And you have two choices, probably a lot, but two main choices. You take that, you listen to it, and you react to it in a way to improve yourself. Or you think, this guy's an idiot, and get mad at him. Now, if you do that, he will never, and I guarantee you this, they will never give you constructive criticism again. They'll be, this guy can't be coached, he can't be helped, and I'm not helping him anymore. They will cut you off. They will be like, this guy isn't going to accept it. If you accept it, you can thank them for that and go away and work on it. Then they see you as a different thing. They see you as somebody who can grow, somebody who can, assuming that they also are healthy and mature. So that is something that's really hard to understand for a lot of people. Anyone who's gotten good constructive criticism and improved from it, I think will have a similar thing. So you can be that change for somebody. You can be the one that sees where somebody is struggling. They can't always see themselves. And that's a really true statement. We don't always see ourselves for who we are. Other people see you or see me differently than I see me. And I can never see what they see, but they see much more what other people see when they see me. And if they're willing to tell me that and I can then adapt to that, that's really powerful. I can use that. And sometimes it's positive things. You're like, oh, good. Like that's coming off the way I wanted it to. Sometimes it's negative things like, oh, I didn't realize people seen that. My joking comes off as, abrasive or uncaring or whatever. And so you kind of realize I need to do this. Yeah. And we have to grow. Everyone grows. Everyone has to mature. Everyone has to change. And that's a big thing. So that's a bit about how to improve yourself, I think.
No,
Um,
I agree. Just some comments from some things from the comments here I did not want to pass up.
Okay.
So we have Jacob DeFord, recent winner, off the book Perseverance, Life in the Subarctic. Congratulations. I think the routine on the weekly podcast keeps me feeling down to earth, and I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Danny, Red Sand Adventures. Thinking about it now, I am now realizing this podcast probably helps me. I don't consider myself a bushcrafter. Aw, Danny, I think you are, buddy. By any means, but very interested in the subject, and you guys talk about it. And then, of course, Steve's joined us in there and talking about our previous conversation in there about, saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. Good thing he said was learn to respond, not to react. And the last thing from Danny here, you guys expected me right from the first episode, and anyone for that matter, just accepted. Sorry, is what it's. Okay, the dyslexia is strong on tonight. You guys accepted me right from the first episode, and anyone for that matter. Just two great fellas, and I feel we have a lot in common. Just want to say thanks, and no worries, folks. Like this is it. The podcast, we say a lot of crap and we catch a lot of crap sometimes. Don't get me wrong, because I've seen the comments. Don't get me wrong, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I've seen some good comments too, but that's the thing. This is a place where we accept anyone for who they are because we all enjoy these outdoor activities. We can have differences of opinions, and that goes with good mental health. You can have a difference of opinion and respect said opinion. Perfect one we kind of joked about here in the comments, and we're definitely not going down this rabbit hole because it's not for the podcast, but politics. You can agree to be on different sides of politics, respect each other's opinion, and still be friends. You know what I mean? And that's all I'll say about politics, because there's a couple things we don't speak about on this channel. Politics is one of them.
There are certain lines you can't cross. But I think everyone kind of has that. So, we won't mention direct politics. You do have to hold certain morals. And if something is well beyond your moral, you do need to stand up for that. And that's something that I think people should respect. If you feel really strongly about certain rights or things, you need to do it, and how we have to move ahead. That being said, if you don't listen to the other side, and you do have to, I know sometimes people might think I haven't, then you can't give it a fair understanding. But you do have to sometimes stand up for things, for your own mental health. That does affect you. Going back to activities, we talked with the podcast. That's a big one. Our outdoor activities themselves. That's part of our mental health. Getting time to ourselves. This is a place for me when I go into the woods, whether it's for a day hike or an overnight trip, or maybe a motorcycle overnight trip. This is a time when I have a lot of what I call mindless time. And by that, I mean, I don't have to pay attention to my day-to-day actions. I have to pay attention to long things, which means my mind has time to go anywhere it needs to. And sometimes it goes very weird places, and that's okay. That's me processing things. We don't get enough of that in our life sometimes. And when you sit and watch TV, or you sit and do something that takes your attention and it prevents you from just wandering your mind, you don't have time to process the thoughts that are really important to you. So there's nothing I like more than doing that. Also, a really good pal, I often say there are certain people that I'll talk to anywhere. But there's also certain people that I really would like to take a beer in a fireplace and go sit down and just shoot the shit, because you can really explore ideas and concepts that you really can't with most people. Like they don't hit you at that level. And so if you ever hear me say, well, we should do that over a beer, it is, for me, the beer's not really important actually, but it's sort of the hint that, yeah, I would talk to you about this and I would be unfiltered. And you don't give that to everyone. So if, a good campfire chat, it does the world of good for a lot of people. I've had a lot of good campfire chats. They go down some weird and wacky holes, but once you come out of it and the next morning, you will feel a lot more refreshed. So those are some things that are really important.
Absolutely. Like expressing yourself is a very big key to good mental health. Because as we said at the start, if you're all bottled up and you never get to be who you want to be, who you think you are, because Ben said it really good here earlier. We see ourselves differently than anyone else sees us. Sometimes you want to see yourself how you see yourself. You want to be you, you want to do you, you want to experience you, because there's many a books on this, and once again, we are not experts, but we all wear masks to a degree. The face I show clients when I'm working is not the same face I show Ben or the same face I show Melissa. When I'm talking to my supervisor, I can guarantee you I'm putting on a completely different persona than if I am talking with one of my coworkers. We do have these personalities or personas we take on, and sometimes you just want to be you. And you got to do that. You got to express yourself, you got to enjoy it, and you have to allow yourself to do that. This is the thing. A lot of people get off track oh, I don't have time, I'm too busy, I can't afford. Let's cut them all down. You got to make time. Everybody's busy, and it doesn't necessarily take money. I mean, what's this costing us? Aside from the website and all that nonsense, but I mean, like Ben and I just talking back and forth, very easily use a free app like, well, what we're doing now, Google Meets, and just have a chat. We don't have to get the internet involved, and that would still be just as good on our mental health. Maybe not quite as good, because we really do enjoy this. But, I mean, it's still a viable option. Call up a buddy. We're on opposite sides of the country. We literally are coast to coast pretty much on this thing now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, there's options. You just have to be willing to look for them. I always was a big thing with, I can't afford it, I don't have time. I had to make the time, and you have to allow yourself to make the time, which is a massively hard step for some people to make, especially if you're just getting on your feet in life. And this is where mental health really seems to be hitting big. And once again, not an expert, just from what I see, folks. Do not quote me on this saying Rob from Atlantic Bushcraft said, so it's a true stat. Not so much. But here what I have noticed, because I deal with a lot of different age groups and ethnic backgrounds and everything in my job. And it seems to really hit like that, I say middle age, but it's not middle age. It's like the younger generation from like 16 to 35. It seems to be really prevalent now because there is such a demand on society and folks that you have to be doing so much and you have to be so successful and you have to have this by the time you're this age and that by the time you're that age, and you expect to have a family and kids or at least a significant other and a house. And it's just society puts a lot of pressure on you, and it's really hard to take a step back and say, hey, I'm worth it. I need to take a couple minutes just for me.
Was it somebody said something one time, and this might be horrible, but if you had an addiction, like a negative addiction, you would find a way to do it, right? If you were addicted to a hard drug, you will find a way to get that drug every time. So
I got a better one for you. Smoking. When I smoked, and I did smoke, folks, I smoked when I was younger, I would be broke and not have money to travel or money to fix my car or to go out or go on a date or go to a dance, but I guarantee you I always had a pack of smokes.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
The one I heard, I think, was cracks. You don't see it.
Okay, that's a little deeper than I went in, Ben.
but you will find, like, if you have something, why can't you put that effort to yourself?
Absolutely.
So last year I managed, and I'm very thankful, I'm very happy that I was able to do it, but I managed to travel halfway across the country for a camping trip for a week. Now, that's not easy. I mean, it's easier for some than others. I'm not going to deny. I'm not saying everyone can do that. It took some organization. It took some favors for some friends. It took some planning, but I was able to do that, which means that I was able to meet two good friends who lived in completely different areas, and we planned a trip. Now, was that trip absolutely perfect? Did we maybe not quite achieve everything we hoped? Did we maybe, camp near a tornado rating? Yes, all those things happen. But was it a great time? Did we have great stories? Did we enjoy ourselves? 100%. And I really think that's important. If you make the plan, this is what I'm going to do. Find somebody that you really like doing this stuff with. You will find a way to do it. If you're into motorcycles, you'll find a way to get a motorcycle. This is true. I know this is true.
I have always owned a motorcycle in my life from the time I was 3 until this day, except for 2 years. I have always owned a motorcycle in my life.
Yeah. I think I've had a motorcycle to some degree since I was 16.
You always find a way.
Yeah. I do it. A dog. I've almost always had a dog. Pets are great mental health tools. Someone once said, no matter how down you are, if you have a dog, you have to get up in the morning. You have to take him out to pee. You have to give him his walks. You have to feed him. It's a reason to get up. It's a reason to do exercise. So, if it's possible, that is a really good tool too. Well, it is for me. And I think Robert can't deny it either.
No, absolutely not. That's amazing. You see what I'm looking at over here? The Drifting Spore Steve, or who should I say the Drifting Sage at this point, has some wicked advice over here. It's okay to only be yourself all the time. Those masks you put on for other people aren't you. That's your expectation of what they want you to see, and you have no way of knowing how they actually see you. You know what? That's a good way to shorten up basically what we're saying. Way more concise. And he's right. Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm not going to say if I wear masks or not. That's for other people to decide. But I have been told by people who've been around me that I am pretty always the same person. You either like me or hate me. And I really don't care too much one way or the other.
But that's a trait. You know what I mean? That's a hard trait to have in life, especially nowadays. And I think with our generation, Ben, that is fading away. It seems to be like Zennials, Gen X kind of deal. That's the last bastion of we don't care what you think, because frankly, we had to drink out of a garden hose. But anyway, that's a joke, a whole other thing. But I mean, it is really. What's that?
You guys had hoses?
I mean, if you call them that. When you weren't getting meat with one, you had to get a drink.
Running through an ancient forest.
But yeah, I think it is definitely our generation where it's not becoming so much of a thing. Because I remember when I was young, working with the adults, everybody seemed real gruff. Everybody was very abrasive and gruff and gritty and salty. And that's slowly petering off. And like I said, I think our generation might be it, man. From there up, it's a lot more, and maybe for the better, maybe for the worse, I don't know. It tends to be a little bit more tame culture. You know what I mean? Which hopefully is a good thing.
I think also like societal norms, they change over time. The generations after us, they grew up with internet much, much more part of their life. We watched the birth of the internet. Like we really did. I mean, I remember when we first heard of the internet, I can remember watching somebody download a picture of an apple, and it took like 15 minutes. Like, and it slowly developed from the bottom up. It was painful to watch.
Yeah, come in chunks.
So, yeah.
Everybody out here complaining about high-speed internet. I remember. You remember 56K modem? How fast that was? You remember 128K modem?
Oh, yeah. You pick up the phone by accident. Right? It's horrible.
Shut down the whole party line. Everybody hated. Now, who's going to remember what a party line was?
Now you can take an AI and it'll do anything you want. You can take a picture of you, put yourself anywhere. It can change you. It can do whatever you want. So we have to deal with different things. And I think it's always a mistake to underestimate or underappreciate each generation for what they are. It is okay to understand that they have a different reality than us. The boomers had a different reality than the Gen X. The Zennials have a slightly different generation than the millennials and the Gen X, but can relate very well with either of them. Everyone has a different experience, and that experience is real, and it needs to be appreciated. I see too many people bashing somebody. Oh, that's the new generation. They don't have this. They don't have that. Well, look what they do have, and look what they did have to grow up with. Look what they've been told. And their reality will become the new reality. And our reality will become old-fashioned. And that's fine.
And that's the thing. Things are always changing, not just in society, but within like our day-to-day lives. I guess we are coming up on the 30 minutes here. The only thing I wanted to touch on right at the end, what's some signs that your mental health may need a little check-in? because there is a lot of classic ones, but there's some subtle ones too. Like the classic ones are obvious. I shouldn't say obvious, but I mean the big ones, of course, depression, anxiety, things like that. That's those are really big signs, and there are a lot of great people out there that can help you handle emotions like that. Now, I've been lucky enough in my life; I don't really feel anxiety or embarrassment. Last time I went through a psychological evaluation, I think the words emotionally blunted came out more often than it probably should have. But anyway, it is one of those things. There's a lot of good help out there. And even somebody like me, and I'm not going to speak for Ben, but I mean, I've gone to a therapist. I've seen them for different traits in my life because of some of the things I've done working with emergency services and stuff like that, depending on the situations you get into. They do offer counseling and SISMs, which I'm sure Ben would know what that is. If you don't know what a SISM is, there's your homework for tonight.
Have you ever heard my story of Sism?
Yeah, I think you and I talked about it once.
So they came in. They were talking to us as a group, and they were very very concerned about my health and well being. For what I think was absolutely no reason. So I was kind of perplexed to why they focused on me so much.
I don't get invited back to them anymore.
So, anyways, it was an interesting experience. No, I have not had formal, but I have actually taken courses on how to help others, and I have talked to people who are struggling. So,
And what were some of the signs you've seen? Because that's kind of what we're talking about here. We know the big one. Sorry, go
a
ahead.
lot of it's a lot of it's withdrawal. If you see somebody withdrawing from situations they're normally part of, so if you see somebody sitting more alone, I've done this myself. If people start to feel like they don't belong, if they're not appreciated or not wanted, they will withdraw from social situations. They'll kind of sit to themselves. They'll only answer exactly what you have to. They will minimize their exposure to you or others. And you may feel hurt or slighted by that, but that's them protecting themselves. And that's the first sign that somebody is struggling. If somebody stops reaching out, they stop talking, it's because now in that situation, they no longer feel safe or secure, or overall in other situations, they don't. And this is bleeding into the other things. So somebody could be struggling at home, and then when they come to work, they're still closed in. They no longer feel able to reach out. Or they could be struggling at work, and when they go home, they'll still react that way. The people that best can witness and help identify this are oftentimes your spouse and your closest coworkers and your best friends. Um, and so you can tell this by the number of times you reach out or how often you reach out. I am the type of person who I don't even talk to people I like half the times, let alone people I don't. So that's not a good value for me. But I just dropped my shit. See, so that's
you got shorter there for a second, Ben.
Shrunk. It's like the Pinocchio thing only. Oh, yeah. The other thing, weight or overall health and cleanliness. If you see somebody's health seem to change drastically, or their personal appearance seems to change, maybe they're not, their clothes isn't quite as put together anymore. Their hygiene seems to have slipped. Maybe they're not shaving anymore. They got a big bushy beard. Things like that could be a sign that they're struggling. So those are some things. What else? Putting themselves down, and you might see this in posts on social media or just general. They'll say a lot of negative things, especially about themselves or others. So if you see that, if somebody becomes suddenly negative, some people have been always negative. I don't know what to do with those people, but some people are constantly negative. They would be a little harder to judge. But those are some things you can look for, and basically any other overly negative trend. It could be drinking a lot more, gambling, participating in risky activities that they didn't before. And I say that because for somebody who's never rode a motorcycle and starts riding a motorcycle all of a sudden, that's a risky activity. If me or Robert are seen riding a motorcycle, that's not a risky activity. That's what we've always done. So it's the norm for us. But if you see me start doing downhill skiing all of a sudden,
skydiving, bungee jumping, giving away material possessions without reasoning is a big one as well. That's a real big red flag.
Now, there's healthy reasons people will do all these things too. So you have to look at it as a whole. Somebody who's decided that they're going to, minimize the clutter in their lives and they think there's things they have that are value and others might appreciate before they just throw them out. That's a healthy thing. But somebody who's just giving away things randomly, it might be good to ask, why are you giving this up? Just to see how they respond. Or why have you taken up this new hobby? And they'll be like, well, I kind of felt like I was doing nothing in life, and then I seen this, and I said maybe that'll help me. And so maybe they're working on their mental health. So try to understand the reasoning behind it. But yeah, those are some things to definitely look forward to, and or towards. And if you do notice it, try to offer them a safe place to talk. Maybe just drop in once in a while to talk with them for a few minutes. You don't have to push yourselves on them. Just let them know that you kind of appreciate having them around and that you're a safe place. And it may take a while. Like somebody won't necessarily open up the first time. You can't turn around and say, oh, I tried. It could take 10, 15, 20 approaches before somebody feels comfortable to tell you that how they feel or what they need to feel safe. Not everyone is comfortable confiding in somebody who they've never confided in before. So, but if you can do that, if they can confide in you, it's a good thing for them, and it's possibly a really good thing for you because you can make a new friend, a new acquaintance, and maybe someday they'll do the same for you.
Absolutely. I guess in the last couple seconds here, I was going to throw out a couple of self things that you can keep an eye on yourself, which doesn't necessarily mean you're getting into a bad mental state, but that you may need a mental health day. Constant feel of fatigue. Not being able to
Yeah.
process normal things that you would do. Like if you are really struggling to handle tasks at work that should be easy to you, around home, and this one's going to sound a little crazy from me because this one's almost an ongoing thing, but unnecessary confusion just floating around the house. You know the old thing where you get up out of the chair, walk into a room, and you just can't remember where you go there? That's not so bad if it happens every now and then, but if it's becoming a constant thing, it may mean that your mental capacity is just overtaxed and it needs to take a break. And that doesn't mean get a good night's sleep. That means take a break. A lot of people underappreciate or undervalue just taking a mental health day. And I'm not telling people to call in work tomorrow and say, hey, I'm taking a mental health day. But I mean, acknowledge when you do need to recover and allow yourself to do so. A, you're going to be more productive when you go back anyway. And B, you are going to feel so much better. Because if it goes on and on and on and on, the psychological can become the physiological, and you can start developing some really weird and funky things that happen with you. Like you can develop constant brain fog. It just nothing. You always seemed a little dazed, just not quite right. It can affect like your sleeping habits, so you're not getting quality sleep, which can lead to blood pressure problems, which can lead to heart problems, which can lead to circulatory problems. Like mental health and physiological health, believe it or not, folks, the doctors
Very
were
nice.
right. They go a lot hand in hand.
I heard an interesting one this morning. Somebody who never gets sick may very well not be a healthy person. And the reason they say that is somebody who's rarely sick probably has always had a heightened point of stress. The person they indicated, like some CEOs and stuff, they're always stressed about everything that's going on. And your body will do is very much protect itself in a stress situation. The problem is somebody who's always stressed at some point will have to relax, and they usually have a very bad crash at that point. Um, and the thing I tell people sometimes, and I do have to tell people this, because I'll invite somebody to something that we're doing, and they'll be like, "Oh, I can't, I don't have time, or I'm way too busy." Is what would happen if you got sick, or your spouse got sick, or your kid got sick, and you couldn't do that? You had to take a day off. Would the world end? Would that company fail? Would what would be the real effect? And what we realize most of the time is almost nothing would happen. Like as much as you think you're that important and that it is essential for you to be there all the time, if one day you woke up and called in sick, the world will not end. Then 2 days, 3 days when you come back, it'll still be there. Imagine, for whatever reason you couldn't come in, somebody will fill in, something will happen, right? Very rarely are you the linchpin for the world. And so
I
when you
can
need to
guarantee you
take
I'm
that.
never going to be the linchpin for the world, buddy.
But people get into that thing. Like you can build yourself up to this point in your mind that you think you're absolutely essential until you realize you're not. And in order to do your best, you do need sometimes that break. So it is okay to take the vacation. It is okay to plan the the event or go to, I don't know, a game or whatever it is that relaxes you most. That is okay. And it
Take
is
that
not
day to
only
take the family to the beach. As simple as that. Just take the day, take the family to the
yeah,
beach, enjoy yourself, be with your family. Whoever that may be. Maybe it's your dog. You have a dog, that's your family that lives with you. Go for a walk, spend some time with the family.
and what you might be really surprised to find out is after you finish that day, a lot of the things that was taking up all your time, was completely stressing you out, have either taken care of themselves or you figured out the solution and you can make it go away much easier. Because you were stuck in that one way, you couldn't get out of it. So, yeah, if you feel completely stuck, completely lost, and feel like you just have to keep pushing, sometimes it is the time to take the deep breaths, step back, reevaluate, and realize, is this important? Is this something I need to do? And sometimes you have to give up on some stuff. Sometimes you've taken on way too much, and you have to say to yourself, reasonably, I can't do all of this. So, what are you willing to give up? And give those things up. Take that out. Say, listen, right now, I can't do these 5 things, but I can do 3 of them, and choose which 3 are the most important.
Um, yeah. So my only 2 cents going in or adding on to what you said about how things very rarely shut down around you is at the first we had said this too shall pass. The thing I usually add on to that is tomorrow still comes.
Yeah,
So no matter how bad it is today, it will pass because tomorrow is still going to come. That being said, like Ben said, if you don't go to work, guess what? Tomorrow still comes. If you don't, for whatever, long story short, make the time. Tomorrow will still come.
yeah, and
90% of times, especially with our jobs, they will have your job replaced before you get out the door.
yeah. Well, this it's the old thing is if you were to die, and this is a horrible way to think about life, but if you were to die, oftentimes before you're buried, they have a replacement. So you only have so much time in this life, and everyone else around you has so much time. So make the time for them. Make the time for the important people. Make the time for yourself. You are the most important person in your life because you're the only person that's always going to be with you. And then
That's
all the other
profound, Ben. I like it.
right, you're the only person that's absolutely always got your back. In the end, I mean, there's other people that generally will, but the reality is they also have to look out for themselves. And there's a time they may not be able to look out for you and themselves, and they will have to choose. So take the time to look after yourself, and then you can and will have the ability to look after those you really care about. And so, think about what's going on and make sure that you're doing your best. And it's not easy. You know, I've got 3 daughters, a wife, I've got family across the country, and I've had to make decisions, and oftentimes not easy decisions. Decisions where I had to choose people over people, or I had to choose who do I need to look after most. And so that can be hard. And realize that you've made the best decision you can, even if it doesn't always feel like it, and even if it has been hard, and move forward. Like that's the end result of some of this stuff. You have to look after yourself, and just because what other people tell you should do isn't always the solution for you. I've made decisions that not everyone's going to always agree with it, but I've made those decisions for myself, and I stand behind them for the most part. So, yeah,
And one last nugget of wisdom from the comments here. Danny, your current situation is not your final destination.
it's true.
Man, we could literally have a T-shirt series here. You know what I mean? What did it start with? Sleeping in the tree? No, swinging in the trees, wiping with I don't know. I lost it now. I have to go back and watch that episode. Anyway, we're at our 45-minute mark here. We did go a little over, but mental health is important, folks. Not just for yourself, but for those around you, your loved ones. It's something we should all be a little more attentive to, because in today's society, we definitely have a tendency to overlook it. And we're not the
Yep.
first ones to say this. This is not a new thought process either. It's just that time of year when we're reaching out to our bushcrafting friends and brethren and sisters and saying, hey, check in on yourself. So this is us checking in on you, I guess, at the end of the day. Acknowledge that if you need to talk to somebody, there are a couple of weirdos on the internet that make a podcast every week. You're more than welcome to go on here, jump in the comments section, and just chat away and feel accepted.
Yeah, find your people.
Yep.
You know, it's not always easy, but you put yourself out there, find your people.
Absolutely. So I think that's going to wrap it up here for us tonight because we have gone over, but you know what? Screw it. It's our channel. We'll do what we want.
We are where we are.
It is what it is.
Sue us. You can have half of what we made.
Exactly. You can have exactly 100% of our profits for the next month at least.
Spend it all in one place.
It's going to cost you money to make nothing. Anyway, folks, y'all have a good night. We'll see you next week. And thanks to everybody that came out in the comments here tonight. So we are talking about Danny, Eric, we have Steve, and I think Jacob was up there. Yep, Jacob. So thanks to all you folks once again. Always great to get you stop in, have your voice heard. And that, once again, folks, if you do want to have your voice heard, even as minor as it is, stop in and talk in the comments. It's always usually about bushcrafting or outdoors activities, but you know what? Go wild. We'll listen. Night, folks.
Night all.